पशुलाई त सबभन्दा पहिला माथिबाट पहिरो आयो हामीलाई थाहा भयो दकुर्न सक्ने भाग्न सक्ने भागियो भने हामीले अब पशुलाई पनि अब हामीलाई लिएर जाने स्थिति छैन भने सकभर हामीले दाम्लो काट्दिने अथवा दाम्लो फुकाइदिने अरे सिउ सकोस् आफ्ना उसले भाग्न सकोस् र बच्न सकोस् सकभर भन्ने हामीलाई सबभन्दा त त्यति नै हुन्छ.
So a new initiative aims to help everyone, from donors and managers to project workers on the ground, to plan and carry out work that supports livestock and people's livelihoods. LEGS, the Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards. This film visits 2 projects that have adopted LEGS. In Turkana, northern Kenya, the new approach is already being used by agencies and communities responding to drought. In Asia, LEGS is at an earlier stage. Here in Pokhara, Nepal, one of the first LEGS trainers of the whole region is Director of AHTCS, Durga Lamichane.
मैले चाहिँ किन विशेष गरी यो लाइभस्टक सेक्टरमा चाहिँ डिजास्टर र लाइभस्टक सेक्टर जहिले पनि इग्नोर गरेको हुन्छ त्यो कुरा चाहिँ लेग्सले कसरी तिनीहरूलाई इन्टरभेनमा लाने भन्ने कुरा गरेको हुनाले मैले लेग्सलाई एकदम लेग्स कोर्सलाई मन पराएँ संस्थाबाट पनि विभिन्न सम्बन्धित व्यक्तिहरूलाई लेग्स दिने प्लान बनाएका छौँ.
Livestock specialists and community workers have come together to learn about LEGS, from Durga and his co-trainer Rammani Paudyal. Paudyal's very experienced with the inspiration for LEGS, the sphere guidelines for humanitarian relief in emergencies.
Humanitarian aid stand from the sphere and the livestock emergency stand on the legs. So these two are the 2 driving wheel of a bicycle, so that it has to wheel together to move forward. Nepal is a country where the more than 80% population rely on the agriculture sector. And livestock are the backbone for the Nepalese agricultural system. While we are addressing the humanitarian aids, we should not forget they are the means of livelihood. And some country like livestock may be the only means of livelihood. So if we forget that, then the humanitarian doesn't work.
LEGS is a process with 4 stages. Taken step by step, they help interventions be more effective. Stage 1 is preliminary assessment, collecting information. Before any action, it's important to analyse the role of livestock and how they're managed, the nature and impact of the emergency, and the operating environment in a situational analysis. LEGS checklists help make this research systematic, even in an emergency. Groups of trainees try out the checklists on an imaginary case study. A cyclone has hit Takawadi province. Do they have the information they need before getting involved?
Quantitative data, qualitative. We have to find out the information is sufficient or not. Information is the key thing for any sort of task, because without information we can't assist during the emergency cases or during the disaster cases.
And without knowing the real scenario, ground level situation, we cannot address in which area we are going to address. If we cannot analyze that thing, then our resources will be wastage, like pouring water on the sand. That is the most important to analyze.
Nepal's mountains and foothills are new and unstable. People living here are vulnerable to natural disasters. Small, local landslides aren't reported on the international news, but the impacts are devastating. Durga is visiting Banga to hear their story.
त्यता बसेको गाउँ यहाँ थियो अरे के पहिला
यो बस्ती पछि उता गएको पहिला यहाँ थियो
यहाँबाट जुन यो माथिको यो बाँसगारी भयो त्यहाँबाट 2टा पहिरा गयो सानसानो यहाँ तल आएर फिजारिएर अनि यो गाउँ पुरै यो घरको यो जुन यो घर हुने ठाउँमा 5 जना परिवार मरेको यहाँ कोही चाहिँ बाबामा मरेर छोराछोरी बाँचे त्यो
They lost their families, they lost their animal, and they lost the means of livelihood. And they now start from the zero level, then they have to build their livelihood asset. And though it's not covered by big media, but it has a huge impact on their livelihood.
Livestock are completely vital here. not just to feed the family with milk and meat. They physically work the land and fertilize the crops. It's a precarious life, and when landslide threatens, people think of their animals.
सुरक्षित
ठाउँमा लान सके लानी नत्र त हाम्रो काटिएपछि उबाट गटटटर त्यो आवाज आउँदा त केही न केही दकुरो दाहिने बाएँ भएर पनि बत्नी ऊ आउँछ
त्यसलाई दाना खुवाउन पर्यो सुरक्षित गर्न पर्यो घाँस चाहियो पानी चाहियो पहिला कुरो त त्यो त बिमारी नै भयो त्यसलाई त पानी नै खुवाउनको लागि पानी चाहियो अनि घाँस पातहरू चाहिए अब कुनै उपचारै गर्न पर्ने रहेछ भने अब उसमै मेडिकलमै गएर दबाई पानी ल्याएर पनि त्यसलाई सुई इन्जेक्सन लाएर पनि उपचार गर्न पर्यो
They know what their animals need, so they should be involved in planning interventions. Stage 2 of LEGS has a framework for this, the Participatory Response Identification Matrix, or PRIM. There's a matrix for slow onset emergencies like droughts, and a slightly different one for rapid onset emergencies like landslides, typhoons, earthquakes or floods. They can be printed or handwritten onto big flip charts to use in meetings. Stakeholders can score the list of possible interventions, which ones are feasible and which are most needed. These are plotted against livestock livelihood objectives of rapid assistance, protecting and rebuilding assets, and against phases of the emergency. When would each intervention have the best impact? Input is mapped out visually, and the PRIM allows all stakeholders to be involved, not only the disaster professionals. LEGS trainees use the matrix in an exercise about their case study. This meeting is set in the aftermath of the cyclone that hit Takawadi. They're acting out roles of different stakeholders. The PRIM gives structure to the meeting so that they can decide on feasible, timely interventions, and they put themselves into character and listen to each other's point of view. Durga's seen what can happen when people aren't consulted.
यसमा चाहिँ कुनै इन्टरभेन्सन हामी गर्छौं तर त्यो लङ टर्ममा त्यसले त्यति इम्प्याक्ट नदेखाएको हुन सक्छ यो प्र्याक्टिकल एक्सपिरियन्स छ र कति अहिले धेरै जसो एनजीओहरूले चाहिँ धेरै पशु वितरण गरे हुन्छ तर त्यो कम्युनिटीको आफ्नो जेन्युइन निड आवश्यक दिएको छैन भने एक्सपर्टले धेरै कुरा जानेको हुन्छ तर ग्राउन्ड रियालिटीको बारे चाहिँ उनीहरूले इग्नोर गरे हुन सक्छ त्यो कुराहरु चाहिँ जस्तै मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर इन्क्लुडिङ बेनिफिसियरी भन्ने चाहिँ त्यो कुराहरु नै आउँछ.
Keeping track of the discussion using the PRIM means the suggestions are not only recorded, they're easy to retrieve and use in more detailed planning. This will be important in the next stage of the LEGS process. And there's no such thing as the right answer.
एउटा सेल्टर चाहियो भन्नुमा थियो अर्को चाहिँ भेटनरी सर्भिस दुईटा चाहिँ अलिकति आखिर कुन चाहिँ इम्पोर्टेन्ट भन्ने त्यो कुन चाहिँ इम्पोर्टेन्ट भन्ने चाहिँ नेक्स्ट स्टेपमा हामी गर्छौं.
Back in Pokhara, they're using decision trees in the cyclone case study.
डिफ्रेन्ट प्रकारको इन्टरभेन्सन आवश्यक पर्छ कुन चाहिँ अप्सन युज गर्ने डिसिजन ट्री युज गर्ने कि एडभान्टेज डिसएडभान्टेज एनालाइसिस गर्ने टाइम फ्रेम एनालाइसिस गरेर यो सबै कुराहरुलाई एनालाइसिस गरेर कुन चाहिँ अप्सन युज गर्ने भन्ने
we decided to prioritize two interventions. First, shelter, because animals are suffering from pneumonia because of the cold environment. And first is shelter, and another is veterinary service.
And what they're learning will go to the field with them. It's Buddha Lakshmi's first training for emergencies, even though she works in vulnerable areas.
यो लेक्स ट्रेनिङ दिनुभन्दा पहिला चाहिँ मलाई यो एनिमल डिजास्टर भन्ने केही पनि थाहा थिएन र हामीले चाहिँ जति ह्युमनलाई मात्रै गर्छौं तर एनिमललाई पनि गर्नुपर्ने छ.
And animals are vital in this rocky landscape. When the bus has brought you as far as it can, to reach the further villages you go on foot. That means loads must be carried, but animals can help.
200 रुपैयाँ एउटा खर्च हुन्छ यो पाक्रीकोट बालुवा सिमेन्ट यो ठाउँमा रासन यताउता खानापिनाको सबै मान्छेलाई आवश्यक पर्ने चीजहरू बगाएर लाइन्छ. अर्को कोदो हो अर्को चामल हो यो बगाएर लानै
Mules provide an income for the owner and make other livelihoods possible too. In emergencies, they can transport food aid and other relief. But they're vulnerable themselves. The River Mardi is unpredictable.
खचड एक कुन्टा फुकाउँदाखेरि साथीलाई चाहिँ एउटा खचड फुकाउनु भएको थियो भेलकाले उता फालिदियो
त्यो पानी पस्नु सकिएन अब हेर्दा हेर्दै अब माया त लागेछ क्या रम्छ नि आफ्नो ज्यान पनि बचाउनु पर्यो हेर्दै हेर्दै लैहाल्यो होइन
अथवा के सोच बनाएर चाहिँ फेरि खचड किन्नु
खचड त्यही परेपछि अब फेरि ऋण नहरे किन्नै पर्ने अवस्था भयो
जनताले चाहिँ अब डोकोमा हालेर होइन आफ्नो निर्वाह गरिन्थ्यो नि त त्यो मान्छेले नै ओसाल्थ्यो पहिला अहिले घोडा खचड भइगयो.
Human and animal welfare are bound together here. After a flood, supporting these livestock assets might mean restocking, improving shelter, or animal health interventions. Planning with legs can help prioritise and coordinate all these efforts. And it helps with monitoring too. That's easily forgotten in emergency work. So stage 4 of legs is monitoring and evaluation, revisiting the legs standards and guidelines, and using the monitoring and evaluation checklists to keep track of performance during as well as after a project. Legs is a way to research and plan, implement and assess relief work that supports them.
When there is emergency, first attempt goes to the human beings to save the human lives. But we always forget the importance of the livelihood.
If only people are rescued, not animal, then this is next kind of disaster in future.
And it's the people themselves who see this most clearly.
हजुर अब यो घटना परेको समयमा हामी मानिस जीवित छौं भने त सर्वप्रथम पहिला हामी पशुकै बचाउनतर्फ लाग्छौं.
अपरष्ट त अब हामीले पहिला सकभर त बचाउने नै उपाय गर्ने र आफू पनि बच्ने पशुलाई पनि बचाउने.
To download the handbook, visit www.livestock-emergency.net or contact the LEGS coordinator.